yeah.
Freedom the people I need, yeah, yeah. Freedom the people I want, freedom the people I need, yeah, yeah. Freedom the people I want, freedom the people I need, yeah, yeah. Freedom the people I want, freedom the people I need, yeah,
Yeah, real man a road. Now bow wolf in a tree grand a road. Now bow down to no demon a road. UIC when you see man a road, me say yeah. Real man a road. Now bow wolf in a tree grand a road. Now bow down to no demon a road. UIC when you see man a road. Ready fi broke every chain. That when you
Hi, good evening. Welcome to another edition of UIC Liberty TV. This is Joseph Patterson. We have two shows lined up for you tonight, and I'm just going to be spending a few minutes with you to talk about the matter of the Queen of England and the head of state of Jamaica passing away, and to just share my thoughts and views on the matter with you. As you know, the monarchy of the UK currently occupies the position as head of state of Jamaica, courtesy of our leaders at independence not creating a republic, but choosing instead to have a government or a system of governance where the Queen of England remains the head of state in Jamaica. That's very interesting because what it says to us is that our leaders back then did not see it fit to have one of us as head of state, and in fact accepted a constitution that was written and framed in a way to make the Queen of England our sovereign. So she was more sovereign than the rest of the citizens, and in a sense we remained her loyal subjects. In fact, in our parliament they say God save the Queen. In all of our major institutions, police, army, she and the monarchy is quite prominent. You probably know by now that I do not share any sentiments at all in terms of being positive towards the monarchy. In my opinion, and I think it's more than an opinion, the monarchy represents an institution that anyone should be ashamed of. It's called the institution of slavery. The monarchy has been instrumental in the leadership of the slave trade and all that goes with it. So in effect, the Queen of England, who has now passed, really represents the embodiment of all that is wrong with our society today, insofar as it has been influenced by colonialism, slavery, and the after effects of the same. You might recall that when it comes on to slavery, you will see a number of things happening. You will see robbery, you will see rape, and you will see murder. And that has happened on an alarming scale. For us now to say that we're going to have even one day of mourning, is an indication that we do not understand what has been done to our people and by whom. I'm reminded of Marcus Garvey's comment that any leadership that would lead you to depend on another race is a leadership that will lead you into slavery. And that's clearly what has been happening here. We have been led as a people right back to where we're coming from, except that it is a more modern form of slavery. Just think about it carefully. The Queen of England From the very day that she was born, 96 years ago, she has been benefiting from the legacy of slavery. She has every dollar that has contributed to her existence was as a result of the slave trade, as a result of the colonial empire built by Britain. And that has provided for her throughout all these years, which resulted in her having a very long, a very healthy, and a very wealthy life at our expense, the expense of our ancestors, the expense of our freedom, the expense of our liberty, the expense of our natural resources, the expense of our wealth as a people. If there's one race on the planet, if there's one race on the planet that should have absolutely no sympathy at all for the monarchy and absolutely no regard at all for those who sit in the seat of the monarchy, it's we the people of the African continent, wherever we may find ourselves today, be it in the West Indies, the Caribbean, North America, Europe, Asia, wherever you are the product of the African continent, and you are the victim of those who have enslaved our parents. And now you and I have to do everything in our power to overcome all of what has been done to us. It's amazing. I see my black fellows or African friends talking about racism. But today you are willing to worship the monarchy. This queen had every opportunity to apologize for what her country, her institution, the monarchy, and a set of people to the rest of the world. Every opportunity to apologize. And not once has she apologized for what was done to our people. She also had the opportunity to correct, to whatever extent possible, what was done to our people. Every opportunity. But she failed to take that opportunity. In her 70 years on the throne of England, and by extension, head of several Commonwealth countries, she failed to use her office. She failed to use her influence. She failed to use her time to advocate for the correction of the problem. Instead, she happily allowed the payment of slave masters to continue without one word of objection until 2015. Yes, since the time of the abolition until now, when they paid off slave masters but paid nothing to the slaves, monies have been paid to the heirs of slave masters, to their estates, all the way up until 2015, which means all of us were paying taxes right across the world, wherever you are, to pay for the evil of slavery that she knew very well about. And now her last act of disrespect to our people is to pass on this legacy to her son, that he may continue the same institution for however long he shall live. Now, I'm amazed that any intelligent person who has the slightest knowledge of history, who has the benefit of some level of education and is able to think rationally from cause to effect, I'm at a loss that any such person would choose to lead the Jamaican people to mourn, pay homage, and show respect to those who have actually done everything possible to destroy our people and our nation. I'm appalled. And for them to stand up in the seat of our government, and call upon this nation to mourn for 12 days for their oppressors, the symbol of their oppressors, is just downright disgusting. If you think about it carefully, just think about it. We are being asked to show reverence and respect to someone. We're being asked to show reverence and respect to someone who has shown no reverence or respect for us. We must not be fooled by the niceties of those who claim to be royal. We should never accept that anybody is more royal than any of us. Each and every one of us are sovereign in our own right. Each and every one of us are as sovereign as the other person, which is why the UIC has always stood for the protection of your rights as an individual, as a sovereign individual. You have an absolute right to your life, to your liberty, and to your property, provided, of course, you do not use that right to entertain the use of force or fraud to infringe on the life, liberty, or property rights of others. But for the life of me, to sit here and watch our political figures, our political leaders leading the Jamaican people to disregard the truth and to engage in error is an absolute shocking thing to watch. The time has come, my friends, for us to demand and to ensure we establish a true republic here in Jamaica. Not a fake republic like they did in Barbados or in Guyana or in Trinidad or in China or America. A republic is not simply the establishment of a government without a monarch. It is not enough for Jamaica to simply replace the Queen of England, or the King in this case, as our head of state. That is not a republic. I know they have led us in our school system and other ways to think that that is what a republic is. No, that's not what a republic is. A republic is an organization or a governance model that fully and unequivocally respects the sovereignty of every citizen. What does this mean? It means that the state has boundaries, very clear boundaries, that begins with the understanding that every citizen is sovereign, and therefore the state cannot cross the boundary of your personal sovereignty unless you, by way of force or fraud, seek to violate the sovereignty of another citizen. In other words, last year when I was arrested for the march on Gordon House to demand that the government respects our rights and freedom, that episode would never have happened in a true republic. Because in a true republic, the government would in no way seek to infringe upon your right to choose what goes into your body, to choose your own medication, to exercise full dominion over your body as your personal property, free and clear from government interference. Now, the fact that we had a government that even think it possible to presume upon mandating an injection, a medical intervention on every citizen, even down to our children, is tantamount to a crime of treason under a true republic. That is why the UIC wants to make Jamaica a true republic. So never again in the history of our country, any government would even think of considering such a move. We want to make sure that we have a new Jamaica, a Jamaica where it is not only safe, clean, and orderly, a Jamaica where it's not only that everybody can live, earn, and retire with dignity, but a Jamaica where the government is truly the servant of the people and the people its master. And when I speak of people being its master, I really mean each of us being masters of our own destiny. You want a country where the government is not able to manipulate your economy. either overtaxing you or regulating away your right to be industrious, to be creative, to be productive, and to make and sell your products without them creating laws and rules to frustrate you or to give big business an advantage at the expense of small business. You want a government with the appropriate checks and balances so those with the most money are not in a position to control the government. And that is why the UIC has a model of a 100% publicly funded electoral system, whereby candidates are so not because they're handpicked by political parties, which are funded greatly by the PSOJ oligarchy, which allows them to then control and manipulate their economy, but rather a system where candidates are nominated and elected purely at the grassroots level in their community, because the government or the system of governance would be so designed that no private money gets to influence the process. Instead, each candidate has to master certain skills to prove that they are able to work in our system of governance. It's called a good governance course and examination. And then they prove that within their local community, they have the confidence of more than a few people in writing. And then they present their package and they're then immediately added to the ballot. And once they're added to the ballot, they then have full access to radio, television, internet, town halls, and debates on equal footing with all the other candidates. And so we can hear the content of their character, the effectiveness of their arguments about their manifesto, and then the people can judge for themselves and vote with confidence after everything they've said has been fact-checked for the benefit of the citizens. A much more smoother and transparent process. On top of that, we want to make sure we have an elected president, a president who is elected nationally by the people, instead of a prime minister who is the product of the backroom dealings of their political party and the pickings of the private sector elites working behind the scenes to foist upon us the people we then have to live with as so-called prime ministers and leaders of opposition. The UIC says no to that. We want a leader, a president, who is also our head of state and head of government, that is elected in a free and fair election by the people of Jamaica, not by a party. We also want to have 3 vice presidents, one elected from each of the 3 counties, Cornwall, Middlesex, and Surrey, similarly elected like the president, but at a county level. The president, together with his or her running mate, which would be a general secretary and a treasury secretary, would then form the nucleus of our executive, but independent of the other 2 parts of the government. You'll have a Senate, which is elected by the people in each of the parishes, 14 senators. Right now, we have a sham for a Senate. What we have in the Senate now are 21, what you call them now, rubber stampers, who are selected by their party leaders to represent their party and the interests of the party leader. 13 by the prime minister and 8 by the opposition leader. That is not a Senate. That is not a real House legislative body. A partisan stacked organization that like we're back. All right. So, we always have these issues, right? Whenever I'm doing a live, we have a problem. But in any event, as I was saying before, in the UIC system, we will ensure that you have 14 elected senators instead of 21 partisan appointed senators who act as rubber stamps for their party leaders. We're going to have 14 independent persons whose sole purpose is to represent the interest of their constituents, which represents their parish. On the other hand, for members of the House of Representatives, we're going to ensure that they are elected from the grassroots up, nominated and elected without being handpicked by party insiders and all kind of stuff like that. The whole point of what I'm saying, though, is that we need to move away from where we are now and get a system of governance that will protect our interests. In the current system, the Prime Minister has inordinate powers, extraordinary powers. The Prime Minister gets to appoint the 14 senators, all of which are beholden to him because they want for him to give them a ministerial position. Same way, all the MPs on the Prime Minister's side are all begging and hoping and wishing for a ministerial seat, so they too are beholden to the Prime Minister. All of them, Prime Minister and all, are beholden to the private sector organization of Jamaica and their elites because they control the purse strings under that system. We must get rid of that system. We must have a more transparent system that allows the poorest among us to stand for office and not be a mere puppet of the PSOJ or a puppet of the colonial masters. We must have a better system than that. And so the UIC has taken the time to design such a system. So in our system, ministers of government will not be politicians. We're not going to have a minister of health who is an MP or a minister of education who is a senator. Instead, what we're going to have are the executive branch nominating the most qualified Jamaican from anywhere in the world to serve as a minister of government, the most qualified Jamaican from anywhere. So you might be living in Sweden at the moment and you're the best person out there or among the best in, say, education. You have lots of experience, you're well trained as an educator. You have worked your way up from a teacher to a principal to maybe working at the national level, overseeing a national program or a provincial program or a regional program somewhere around the world. So you're very bright. You know what you're doing. We want to go and find you. And the executive branch, which consists of the president, the GenSec, the treasury secretary, and the 3 vice presidents, would then nominate you. But they can't just appoint you, because we don't want to give the executive this extraordinary power like we have now. Right now, the prime minister can appoint and dismiss anybody he wishes at any time. We don't want that. What we want is a well-ordered system of checks and balances. So in our system, the executive will nominate someone, and that nomination will go to the Senate. The Senate will then have a public hearing where they look at the credentials of the person, interview the person, and come to the conclusion whether or not this person is fit to serve in this capacity. And only after that process is done, the Senate then makes a recommendation to the House of Representatives, where you have the 63, as they call them now, members of parliament, would then vote to approve or disapprove of the nomination and recommendation that came through the Senate. Once this person is appointed, they will not be removed unless we go through a similar process. So the president can't just say, I'm tired of this person, I don't like them, and then dismiss them. No, I have to go through a process to make sure that it's not victimization. There's good grounds for dismissal or good grounds for a new person to be appointed. This will create consistency. It will make sure our ministries are properly run and are properly focused on meeting the needs of the country while being under the microscope of the Senate and the House, because now we're co-mingling. Right now in Jamaica, you have the Senate and the House and the executive branch all in one. The prime minister is from the legislature. The ministers are from the lower house and or from the upper house. No, that kind of system lends itself to all kinds of corruption and has made Jamaica one of the most corrupt countries on the planet, which, by the way, feeds into all of the other problems we have. Because the system is corrupt by design and has actually worked the way the colonial masters intended, to make us corrupt, to make us lacking unity, and to make us incompetent by virtue of nepotism and all that kind of stuff. It has now worked its way out into the rest of society and make us less than we can possibly be. The UIC wants to change that completely and will do so with your help. Now let us begin this process by not falling for the latest trick again. We should not, even slightly, acquiesce to the Prime Minister's request for us to mourn for 12 days, not even one. We should make it very clear to the Prime Minister that we have no such interest or intent. We're completely committed to a new Jamaica where we do not honor, respect, or do anything to further the cause of colonialism. We must be opposed to it, and we must be opposed to it resolutely. Now, on the 22nd of September this year, 2022, I will once again be walking from Ward Theatre in Kingston, as we did last year, September 22nd. This year, our walk is not going to be focused so much on the government, because we're past that. It is clear that the government and the opposition, having been in control of our government for 78 years, it is clear that they do not have Jamaica's best interest at heart. The history of the last 78 years has made it very clear that they cannot address the issue of crime. They cannot address the issue of our education system, and they cannot address the issue of building our economy sufficiently to serve the needs and interests of the Jamaican people. So with that in mind, we now need to move on. We need to move on and form our own government. And that begins with us mobilizing and saying, enough is enough. It's time for good governance now. So our walk on the 22nd is about us, we the people, taking responsibility for the government that we have. We the people deciding that we've had enough of what we've allowed for the last 78 years. We the people standing up finally and saying, we shall not allow this to continue any longer. And so starting on the 22nd, we begin to mobilize across the country in preparation for a ballot box revolution. We're going to fight a war that is intellectual, a war that is built on the premise that we as a people have the capacity to learn and understand and rise above the pettiness, the trickery, and the corruption that have marred us for so long. So we're not going to be bought anymore at any elections, and we're not going to be looking for handouts from any politicians. In this era, in the 21st century, when the last era, the past era is now dead, we're moving into a new light, a new enlightenment, whereby we're going to join hands together and we're going to say, enough is enough. Good governance now. And we, the people, are going to take responsibility for that. And we're going to vote that way. But we know that it's not just about voting. We have to make sure we put up the candidates. So while the other candidates from the other parties will be there because they're coming at the behest of the PSOJ oligarchy, we are going to put up our own candidates, we the people. These will be ordinary Jamaicans who are not backed by the rich and powerful. Ordinary Jamaicans who are not career politicians. Ordinary Jamaicans who are tired of what is obtained for the last 78 years and are saying, enough is enough. Good governance now. And so we, the ordinary Jamaicans, like myself, I have never been involved in politics. I have never been a part of any of the two parties. I have never voted for any of them because I could not bring myself to do so, seeing the reality around us. And so now we're going to join hands together and create our own alternative called the United Independence Congress of Jamaica. And by creating this party for ourselves and own it, We're not taking money from the big donors who want to control our interest, who want to control our mission and vision, who wants to control our party to continue what they have been doing for the last 78 years. We are now going to own a movement and a party where we, the people, are in control, where the movement works for us, the party works for us. It does not work for a small group of wealthy elites hiding behind the scenes and putting forward a few puppets that they call politicians, have them come around with the monies they give them to bribe us with all kinds of bribery, whether it is a free health clinic or back to school gifts or vouchers or a sheet of zinc or a bag of cement or a few blocks or a few length of steel. No, we're not going to be bribed anymore. What we want now is good governance. And what we mean by good governance is a system that allows each and every one of us the opportunity to work and earn and pay our way through life and not having to beg or depend on a politician to help us. We want a Jamaica where nobody has to go to any politicians for any special benefits or favors. We want a Jamaica where all of us are free to earn. You know, like when you go a foreign, when a Jamaican fly out and go a foreign, them not gonna talk to no politician because they won't even see them. They don't go to America or Canada or England to go look for a politicians to get a favor. No, they go to America, Canada, or England to work. And when we go there, we work hard. That is why we're able to send back monies to our families who are suffering in Jamaica, because we have an opportunity to work and earn and pay our way through life. The UIC wants that for you. We want a Jamaica where every single adult who wants to work can find work and can find work commensurate with their competences and earn at that level so that they can enjoy the fruits of their labor. You want a Jamaica where you don't have to leave here in order to live in a safe, clean, and orderly environment. You want a Jamaica where you don't have to leave here to find a place where you can live, earn, and retire with dignity. You want a Jamaica that looks, feels, and smells like a tourist resort. And that's what the UIC is going to give. We have a simple 10-point plan. Though it might sound simple, it's not simplistic. It is built on the foundation of good governance. It is built to ensure that every child leaving high school will be able to get into a gainful employment situation one way or the other. Either they're going on to university, going on to a trades program, or they're being apprenticed in a company and a firm where they're being paid to learn and become productive. And that's for every single child. We're not leaving a single one behind. We will also have a work fair program for the adults who have passed the age a long time and who has been disenfranchised economically because of a bad system of governance. We have a program for them too. It's called Work Fair. By now, you know the UIC does not believe in welfare. So our Work Fair program will help every adult who is able to work to find a job commensurate with their skills. We're going to create jobs. One of the areas in which we're going to create jobs is by focusing on making Jamaica food, water, and energy independent. That means we're going to have massive organic farms, which allows any Jamaican who wants a job to find one in one or more areas of the organic farming industry. It's going to be a massive industry on the scale of the Netherlands that will make Jamaica the organic food capital of the world. But not only that, in building this project, we're going to connect it with becoming energy independent, or at least energy secure. We believe that a combination of solar, wind, biogas, geothermal energy, we are able to produce at least 80% of Jamaica's energy needs. Again, this will open up a massive industry of harnessing and capturing the sun, water, bio, and geothermal energy to send back into the grid and to feed your homes at much cheaper rates of electricity and gas. We're also going to expand Jamaica's ability to capture, store, filter, and distribute water around the country like never before. We're going to get into massive water harvesting so that Jamaica becomes a net exporter of water. The end result of all of this is a Jamaica that is going to be one like you've never seen before. It is going to have the food security and less medical conditions because we're moving to organic. It's going to have the water security because we're going to build a number of water catchments around the country, including augmenting the many homes that so far do not have proper water catchment facilities. We're going to ensure that we really bring our people up to speed in how to capture, harness, and distribute energy across the grid by making the electric grid no longer a monopoly, but an open market system that any Jamaican can feed into and make money by producing energy from your home. This is going to be augmented by a new and different view of tourism. We're going to make tourism an all-inclusive product, not in a small segment like it is now in Jamaica, but we're going to make Jamaica the all-inclusive product. So when you come into Jamaica, the moment you land at the airport, before you land, just by looking down, you're already seeing a majestically well-maintained, well-groomed landscape across the country in every single community. And so with that, we're going to open up the tourist product to all of Jamaica. So not only the tourists will be able to enjoy the full expanse of the Jamaican experience, they're also going to be able to connect with the local residents and let that money flow right through the local economy, as opposed to what we have now, where most of it flows right back out of the Jamaican economy. We're going to make tourism work for the Jamaican people as opposed to working for the government and their rich friends. But it doesn't stop there. You cannot have a great country. Let me say it this way. There is no great country where its people are not highly educated. So we're going to shift from the failing system we have now, where 70% of our students are failing every year, to a new model of education that we call LEAP, Learning Enrichment Advanced Program, where we're going to shift the focus from passing exams to building competencies, not just for the work market or for the labor market, but building competencies to make you a solid human being. We're going to approach education from a whole person perspective, bring back discipline into our school, bring back the professionalism of our teacher, and bring back the harmony that we need and the competencies that we must have if Jamaica is to be highly productive and therefore truly prosperous. Instead of the fake idea of poverty to prosperity, we're going to really do the things that will make Jamaica a prosperous nation. In the same way we want a real republic, we want real prosperity for the Jamaican people. And so I'm inviting all of you to join me, work with me and the UIC to do this for Jamaica. I know it's not easy. I know it's easier said than done. But guess what? We have listened for 78 years to all kinds of false promises by the other two. So even though you might be doubtful, you might be saying to yourself, they're not different. The truth is, you don't know. I can't tell you anything to guarantee in your mind that the UIC will not be just as bad as the other two. But one thing I can tell you for sure is that you already know what the other two can do. They have had a chance to do the best that they can do for 78 years, and you have seen the best that they can do. You have a government that promised you that now you'll be able to sleep with your windows and doors open, and you have seen the result of that. You have a government that promised you that you would have gotten 5% growth in 4 years, seen the result of that, massive inflation, and the value of your dollar is wiped out and your purchasing power is gone. You have a government that has promised you a number of things that the first 100 days, like fixed election date and so on, and you have seen none of that. So by now you should be very convinced, if not before, that all we have from the other two parties is empty promises and whole heap of corruption and thievery. So now give yourself a fighting chance. Let us give ourselves a fighting chance by deciding to do something different. And what the UIC very different? We are not owned by the colonial masters as the other parties are. And we are not owned by the PSOJ oligarchs, the other parties are. We are owned by you. You are the ones who join, volunteer, and donate to make this party work. We exist purely to serve you. We're owned by you. Whether you're here in Jamaica or you're abroad, we're owned by the Jamaican family across the world. And so everything we do is done 100% and totally for the building of Jamaica and the benefit of the Jamaican people. Rest assured that the UIC was designed and conceived with you alone in mind. At the end of the day, when the UIC is finished, or before we're finished, you will have a new constitution. For the first time in the history of Jamaica and for the history of the world, the people of the African diaspora, the people here in Jamaica and across the African continent will have a constitution which is designed by we the people for the benefit of the people. It will not be a constitution which is imported from colonial masters. It will be one which is fully designed and developed to meet our needs. When you see it, you're going to be so impressed. Already, I've shared with you some elements of it about our governance model. It will be designed for us and by us. As a matter of fact, it will be so good that every country around the world, once they see what we have done with it, will want to press their leaders to change to a constitution such as the Jamaican Constitution. Now you might be saying, sure, that not gonna happen. No, forget. We have set the pace in many things. We introduced reggae to the world, and we have produced both the fastest man and fastest woman on the planet. There's nothing that we Jamaicans cannot do if we put our minds to it. We have the ability to do all things. Yes, we've allowed a few men and women to rob us of our economic prosperity, to rob us of our true intellectual genius, but now the time has come. Enough is enough. We want good governance now. It is out of good governance that we will bring forward the genius of all Jamaicans. The UIC, or not the motto, the vision of the UIC says a Jamaica that brings out the best in all people. We have suffered a system, a colonial system, a colonial constitution, and colonial-minded leaders that have taught the worst in us. They have taught us how to be divisive and destructive. They have taught us how to kill each other, kill even our economy. Now it's time for us to learn how to unite, to work together, to build a better Jamaica, to build our economy based on trading value for value each other. And all I'm asking is that we give ourselves a chance. And the way is to join the UIC, volunteer, and donate so that come the next election, you will see on the ballot this symbol, the handshake, and you'll be able to say, yes, I voted UIC, I voted for me. When you vote in the next election, you are voting for yourself, you're voting for your children, you're voting for your family, you're voting for a new and better Jamaica. I hope you'll make the right choice, and I look forward to serving not as Prime Minister, but as your first president, not because I want the job of president or the job of prime minister, but because I want to finish the work that we have started together right here in the grassroots. Thank you for your time. Talk to you soon. I have to go on another live in about 15 minutes. So all the best. Take care.